Okay, now we are live on YouTube. Hello again into our 24th Everyone Can Contribute coffee chat. For me, it's the vacation edition. But for Max, it's like we're gonna continue what we've learned thus far of the Kubernetes setup and the automation. And rumors do tell that we are like combining it this week with GitLab CI/CD. But I don't want to spoil anything, so I'm looking forward to Max and hand it over to you, unless someone else has something against it. No, so please go ahead.
All right, yeah, welcome. Yeah, today we want to take all the stuff we built in the first few sessions and put it into one GitLab CI pipeline. And yeah, it's mostly we do it live, just trying to figure out how it works. I tried the first few steps yesterday in the evening to make sure it's not going to be a disaster, but most of it we just need to try out. And also I think in the call here, like everyone knows at least the same amount of stuff about GitLab CI as I do. So if you have any ideas how we could do something better or different or anything, please feel free to tell me. We can just try it out. One thing I wanted to add to last week, because I think we were talking about the firewalls, and we came across this topic that where I told you that in my case, the WireGuard connections did still work after I applied the firewalls in my private cluster. And Nicolas' first reaction was connection tracking. And my answer was, yes, I thought so as well, but I restarted the nodes and it still worked. And yeah, by now I figured out that the cause is still connection tracking, but not the connection tracking on our nodes, because this firewall isn't even applied on our nodes. It's applied on in front of them and the managed firewall from Hetzner. And so they don't care what we do with our nodes. If we reboot them fast enough, the connection can be established again. So most likely, if we shut it all down and wait for a bit and start it up again, the traffic would be blocked as expected. Yeah, that was quite interesting. So that's a little bit of an answer to why this UDP traffic still worked.
So I have also a question regarding that, probably, or an idea. Because I was wondering in the last time, if you're using Hetzner and you spin up a new machine, for example, every time you get also the same IP address mostly. That could be also a reason, because when you are in the time zone or in the time window, when you get assigned the IP address, when you are fast enough, you get the same IP address for the machine. If you're waiting longer, you will get a new IP address. I think it's the same behavior also on the firewall. So.
Yeah, that's possible. Yeah, I also sometimes wondered, like, wow, I recreated this server 5 times and I still have the same IP address. In the OpenStack cloud, I know as well that it's you lose an IP and it's gone forever. You can need 1,000 tries to get it back. Yeah, that's about firewalls. So that's definitely interesting. And so our first instinct about connection tracking was right, but it's at a different place than usual. All right. So if you didn't attend last week, just forget what we said. All right, so far we have Terraform to set up our machines and our networking on Hetzner, and then we have Ansible to set up the K3s cluster in there. And then we have I think we have a few YAML files with just some Kubernetes manifests we applied with kubectl apply. And right now, I'm not even sure if we also had some Helm charts already. I think we had, not sure right now. Today, at least, we will put Terraform and Ansible into the GitLab CI, I guess. And if we are fast enough, we may add the installation of some Kubernetes manifests as well, not sure. Yeah, let's start. It will probably start a little bit slow because I'm super exhausted, but we will see. All right, so you should be able to see the repository on gitlab.com right now. And I prepared a little bit in the settings. We have in settings CI/CD our variables, and I added an hcloud token and I added an SSH key. And it's the token with read and write access to the Hetzner API in our Everyone Can Contribute project. And then there's also a private SSH key. And we use Terraform to deploy the public key to all our nodes. And then we use Ansible with this private key to access the nodes.
Short question.
Yeah.
Doesn't it need to be written in capital letters? The variable?
Yes, for the Ansible and Terraform to work, yes, but we will use, it has to have different names anyway for Terraform and Ansible. So we will just define the variable there based on those values. But yes, written like this, it won't work with Ansible or Terraform. Yeah. It's a little bit mixed that the SSH key is in capital letters and hcloud token not.
Yeah, but the SSH key is a file, so it's also.
No, your sound is interrupted.
My sound is interrupted?
Yeah, we were freezed for, but now it works again.
Okay, yeah, but the difference also that the SSH is a file and not a variable.
Yeah, that's also a thing we should be aware of, right? So the SSH key is a file. So what GitLab does here is to put the content of the variable into a file and put the path to the file into this variable, which is nice because usually an SSH key we want to use as a file when we pass it to a other program, because we will pass it to Ansible. But yeah, that one is in capital letters and one is not, is more random. I don't want to change it now because I think then it will reveal the values. All right, but we have those two variables in here. And yeah, one thing I also changed is in general pipelines. I disabled public pipelines, mostly because when you enable public pipelines, everyone will be able to see artifacts of the pipelines. And later on, we will put some things in the artifacts we don't want to have publicly accessible, only for members of the project. All right.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't use it.
Yeah, I don't know if it's always enabled by default or if I enabled it at some point in the past. But yesterday because later on we have some step in the pipeline which puts the kube config in an artifact. So we are able to download it. And I was thinking, wait, is this artifact public? And it was.
Okay.
All right, so let me change the window. Hopefully my browser doesn't crash again. And because all right, now
it
we should
works.
see some README file. That's our just our demo repository we used for weeks. Why does my shell not work down here?
Your Tmod session isn't working. It's dying.
Wow. Let me restart Visual Code really quick.
We probably should rename the meeting to Everyone Can Restart.
Every window.
Don't rub salt in my wounds.
This isn't the Windows Cafe, so we don't rename it. Sorry
okay, you won the front.
But joking aside, today I figured we have the gtld.cafe available, or it's like you can buy domains, and so I registered one. I just need to figure out how to use it.
You're one of the people who get a domain and then wonder what I'm going to do with it now. I
Yeah,
feel
sometimes.
I feel a bit called out here.
I'm in the street
Just
and
a
I don't
tiny
like
bit.
it.
Yeah, it's better having a domain reserved than looking at it and say, "Damn, I wanted to register that 2 weeks
Yeah.
ago, and now someone else has." So
Yep.
yeah, I think I have 50% in use and 50% are like, oh, maybe in the future.
All right, so we are back with the shell. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I should stop doing stuff with the computers. Anyway, we will. So I will just a little bit assume that people know what a CI pipeline is, right? And maybe even worked with GitLab before. And so if you watch this video afterwards and have no idea what a pipeline is, then yeah, maybe look it up first and then come back and watch the video. So first thing, we will add a file, .gitlab CI, and then we put in some stuff.
I will be adding the URLs to the docs in the blog post and link the blog post in the video description, and then we'll save.
Okay, cool. We will create several stages in our pipeline. Let's define them here. We will create for each, like we have different, naturally we have different stages. Like at first we want to apply Terraform, and in the next step we want to apply Ansible. And for each one of those, we want to have a step where we can see just the diff in a dry run that would be applied. And then in the next step, we really apply it. So we have a little bit more stages here. Then if you remember, one of our Ansible roles was to pull our kubeconfig file to download it to our local machine. And we will do a similar thing in the pipeline to download the kubeconfig and put it into an artifact in GitLab, so we can then download it in the browser or via API. All right. So one thing we do first is to, for the time being, we want to run our pipeline only if it's triggered via the web browser. So we don't run it for each commit, not for each merge request or anything, only if we trigger it via the web interface. This might be a little bit unusual for a CI pipeline, but our main goal is for now is to like have a way to create a Kubernetes cluster with one click. And so for now it's like we just click in the web interface of GitLab and then we get a cluster back. And later on, if we want to, we can change the pipeline a bit to also apply all changes with each commit or something like this. But for now, let's do it like this. So this workflow setting in GitLab CI is like it's like a gate before the rest of the pipeline. The rest of the pipeline will only run if this is true. And if it's not true, then it will just stop running any pipeline at all. All right, so GitLab CI has a nice feature of template jobs. So if we have several jobs with similar settings, we can create a template for this. So let's create, if we want to create a template job, we can just start it with a dot. Then it's not a job itself, so there will be no instance of this job created, but we can extend from it. All right, I'm not going to type the full image name because we are going to use the Terraform image of GitLab because they are so nice to provide us with an image that is already prepared to use Terraform inside of GitLab CI. And then we will define some variables. And if we go into our Terraform code in our main Terraform file, then at the top we have this variable hcloud token defined. And I think this goes into the direction that Niklas mentioned with a how this variable is called or not.
Okay.
And for Terraform to pick this up from the environment, we need to call it tf var in capital letters, and then the name of the Terraform variable. And there we put our hcloud token environment variable. And then we define a few more Terraform settings. We set up the Terraform root directory. And there we can use this predefined variable, which comes with GitLab CI, which is the project directory. So no matter where our project is cloned on the actual CI runner, this directory, this environment variable will contain the right path to it. And there we want to go into the subdirectory Terraform, because that's where all our Terraform state and Terraform files live. And
you don't need to specify VTFR hcloud token. You can save it because the provider by itself can read directly from the hcloud token environment variable.
okay, but then we need to set it in capital letters probably, right?
Yeah, but now it works. So it's mostly for everyone who's wondering. You can also use this. So it's mostly that all Terraform providers support the default variables mostly.
Okay. Okay. So then when we commit this, then it's noted there as well. Yeah, and for the Terraform address, that's where the URL of our state backend. And we can also derive this from some existing variables. So this variable gives us the API URL of our current GitLab instance, which in our case is gitlab.com/API/v4/something, I don't know. And then it puts our own project ID here. And then we define this API URL to store our Terraform state. If you remember from our very first session, there we did a Terraform init, and there we also passed this URL, and it's the same. Like the variables will fill in this part and the project ID. And because in GitLab CI we need the same. But it's nice that we don't have to hard code this URL in our pipeline, because this way we could later extract this job into an external template and then use the same, and it would work with different projects as well. So let's use the variables here. All right. And then we can also define a cache, which is nice to use the same Terraform. When Terraform runs, it creates a few files, and we want to keep them between our different jobs. And we only keep this hidden subdirectory of Terraform. And then we can change into this directory. While I write this, I wonder, we could probably also use our tf root here, right? We could also do it like this. No. But I think at this point, it doesn't really matter. All right, so if we apply, commit this, then exactly nothing happens, because there is no job here. It's only a template so far. So now let's create a few jobs based on this Terraform template. For example, we want to run Terraform validate, which checks all our Terraform code if it's even valid code. And we add this step to our test stage. I can close the terminal for now. So then we can see here at the top, we have created this test stage. All right, and we extend our Terraform template. So right now it's the same as if all this stuff would be down here as well. And yeah, then we create a script to tell GitLab what we actually want to run. And we want to run GitLab Terraform init. And we want to run GitLab Terraform validate. So GitLab Terraform is a minimal wrapper around the actual Terraform binary. I haven't looked into it. I think it does some stuff like automatically passes the parameters to auto approve the changes. So you don't have to type yes if Terraform wants to do any changes and stuff like this. So they provide this as part of their Terraform image. And yeah, there's a Terraform GitLab documentation. We can link it in the blog post as well, where it's, where basically most of it is an example from there. So that you can use this GitLab Terraform wrapper to run Terraform in your pipeline. All right, that's already our first job. So let's create a few more. More interesting than validate is Terraform plan. And there we can put it in this stage Terraform diff. And we can extend our Terraform again. But this time we run a little bit different stuff. For example, we run GitLab Terraform plan. And we can also run GitLab Terraform plan JSON, which I think it writes it as JSON onto the disk. And then we can tell, or I think by default Terraform apply uses the JSON then. But we can check the output later on. And then let's create a few artifacts based on this. Okay, call it plan. And we want to put the cache of our Terraform plan JSON command in there. And then we can, that's why we create the run Terraform plan JSON, right? Because we can now tell GitLab that we have a report in here, and it's a Terraform report based on this plan. Because then if we create, for example, a merge request on GitLab, it will display, this merge request will do the following Terraform changes. It will create 5 resources, modify 1 and delete none or something like this. So you have, as a reviewer in GitLab, you have some context that there's Terraform running in this pipeline and that if you merge, it will change stuff, which can be helpful because you kind of directly see it. All right. And we can expire it, I don't know, in 2 days or something. So we don't need to keep this for long. Or maybe when we assume we review stuff, maybe let's do 1 week. And then now we have validate, we have plan. Let's also apply it. And we do this in the next stage. Now it's not Terraform diff, but just the Terraform stage. And again, Terraform. Sorry. All right, now we again override our script to change what we actually do. And this time we run GitLab Terraform apply, which is just the same like when we run Terraform apply on our own shell, like we did the last few times. But this time it won't ask us for any confirmation, it will just apply. Yeah, now I'm thinking, yeah, we can add a dependency. I remember that I did this in my own setup. I think by default, each job gets all artifacts from previous jobs. And if we define a specific dependency or an explicit dependency, then we only get the dependencies from this job. Yeah, I'm thinking, in our case, I think it wouldn't matter. Maybe we can try to remove it and see if it still works. So we don't overcomplicate stuff for now. All right.
I think it should work. Let's try it out
Okay.
and maybe later, try the dependency later.
Yeah. So
If I unmute myself, I can talk to you. Wow.
yeah,
It's exactly as you described. So if you don't specify it, you get all the artifacts. And if you specify it, you get only the ones from the jobs you specified.
okay. So let's push this. While it pushes, I will change my shared window again. And now I almost pressed the leave button. All right. We are back to Firefox. We will go into our CI/CD tab. And we see that I failed a lot of times yesterday when I tried to prepare. And let's just click Run Pipeline. And here we do this for the main branch because we just pushed into the main branch. And let's go. If, for example, we wouldn't want to put our secrets like the token and the SSH key into the settings of the project, we could also like not put them in there and only put them here on demand. But for us, it's okay to set them globally here. Then we can see we get 3 jobs: Terraform validate, plan and apply, the different stages. And then, okay, it already got picked up because yesterday, I don't know, I waited 10 minutes for some of the shared GitLab runners to pick this up. But yeah, today it seems to be a little bit faster. And when we have our cluster running, then we can think of adding our auto-scaling runners. I think we talked about this in the past, that we might do this. But right now we are fine with those shared runners as well. Okay, validate succeeded. Let's look into a diff. For example, what we could do right now, we don't do this, but we could change it that the Terraform apply only is run if we manually click here to run it. Like we could check the diff, and then if we agree with it, we click to apply it. But for now, we can just go and always run all the jobs.
Yeah, mostly this would this would be the difference between continuous delivery and continuous deployment. So if you have a button, you made mostly deployed, it's a continuous deployment.
Then we can see in our diff that we would create 13 resources. So this looks familiar, right? We did this a lot of times already. And now the pipeline failed. Let's look into it, why the apply failed. Okay, that's interesting. It doesn't even make sense. I mean, the token worked in the diff, and it worked for the first few. Let's retry this. Not sure why the Hetzner API didn't want to talk to us.
Maybe it's the same problem as last week with resource deletion, race conditions.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, but plan doesn't execute it against the API. That's the most reason. So you in plan you can't see if your token is valid or not.
But it has to talk to the API during the plan, right? Because it needs to check if it needs to change stuff.
Yeah, that's correct. Okay.
I mean, it only accesses it with read access. So if our token has read access but not write access, then it could happen. Okay, now our plan does not work anymore because we have this stored plan in our artifact, and it does not match the actual state anymore because the first few things already got applied, I think. We can see it here, right? The first few got created, and then a few started to fail. Let's just run the full pipeline again, I guess.
But it's good to see that it fails. So you know when you're in a mixed deployment state and you try it again, you need to recreate a plan and then do a diff and apply it.
Yeah, so the diff matches what you actually apply. Yeah. So
I haven't seen this before, so that's nice.
In theory, now our diff should be a little bit smaller because some resources already exist. You can also check here in the Hetzner Cloud Console. If we go to security and no key here yet. Okay.
Theoretically, we could also like build something like unattended upgrades for the deployment then.
Yeah, I by now use it for all the stuff. Renovate, we can do a separate session about it, or maybe Moro wants to do a session about it because he uses it as well, which is super nice. We can even use the GitLab integration of it.
I have example repositories for that.
Yeah, nice, because it's like the best tool ever. It will check if there are any updates available for dependencies of your Git repository, be it Python packages, Ansible roles, Docker images,
Helm charts.
everything.
We
Yeah,
use Helm charts also. For example, when you update.
Yeah. I think Niklas mentioned that several months ago. I remember that name. And yeah, but it's just a thought of mine was saying, hey, I probably want to install security updates and other things automatically. And
you can tell Renovate it will always create a merge request for you with the changes. And you can even tell it to auto merge it if it's just a minor version or something. And that's extremely helpful. I don't know, for my private stuff, I get around 10 merge requests each week, and I would completely lose the overview of this without Renovate because everything would just be outdated. And so now I just get automated merge requests that tell me here, there's an update for your Prometheus, there's an update for the Python image your Ansible image is based on, and all this stuff. And I don't know, we started to use this in my previous job, and we started with 2 repositories, and then we added it just to all of them. And you can host it yourself, or you can also use their hosted version if you have public repositories on GitLab or GitHub. Yeah, it's very nice.
Yeah, I think it's a great addition that you can self-host it, because I've seen Dependabot being abused for crypto miners who generate merge requests to pull requests and then inject something into your CI/CD repository to mine some Bitcoins or something like that. And if, yeah, typically you want to auto merge dependencies, but if it's hosted by yourself and you secured it by yourself, hopefully it works better than anything which comes from the public to your repository.
Yeah, you can also do like not like standard dependencies. If you have like really crucial dependencies that are not in a standard way conform from the public, you can also write regular expressions to update them or something like that. So you don't need to stick to the convenience of the outside world. So we need also to use this on some parts.
Yeah, I can show an example of this in my own repository. For example, here in renovate, the configuration, I can tell it to just take this file from in some Ansible role where the default variables are in there, and then match some substring of it, and then look in this GitHub repository for newer releases, and which is nice because now I don't have to check for K3S updates. Then if we look into this file, it's in here.
You didn't merge the update yet, I see.
Yeah, that is correct. A little bit overwhelmed with the new job. And yeah, that's where it matches, and that's just nice because I just get a merge request. We can show this example here as well. No, there is none. Why is it? Oh, maybe I already merged it.
I think we can do a separate session around this.
Yeah.
Next
we
week,
should do that.
Next week we have ops trace, so like digging in a little bit into monitoring and observability, and then we can see whether we want to like stay on the loop and continue with Prometheus and other things, or go into the direction of managing dependencies and updates and other things. But I will be linking your blog post in our blog post.
Yeah, it's a super cool tool. All right, let's go back to our pipeline. It failed again. That's bad. That's so weird.
Also it failed with every resource. If you check the errors, this is if you start at line 43, you can see that the error for the firewall is on line 65. So it may be some problem with the token.
Yeah, that's interesting because yesterday it worked.
Because
I just checked in the Hetzner console, so the token has read and write access.
What would be the debug steps?
Right now, I check the variable in a different window to not have it in the stream.
If you do it manually with the Docker image from the GitLab registry.
Yeah. I think the next step would be to do it manually just on the command line with a token to just run Terraform locally. Let me check one more thing.
Or is there a different way to communicate with the Hetzner cloud? Just raw curl or whatever towards the REST API.
I think the issue is that it's a protected variable and the main branch is not protected. And yesterday when I tested it, I explicitly protected my debugging branch. But But that's super interesting because apparently the plan worked without talking to the API then.
Yeah, that confirms what Niklas said earlier, that it doesn't talk to the API. So the plan just takes as far as I can see it right now, the plan takes the state you have, which works because we have it in GitLab, and takes the provider and then generates the resources and compares it to the state and not to the actual state via the API.
That's why it's able to. That's why it's able to generate a diff because it knows the state.
Yeah, it would fail if we had one of the resources already implemented. Because then Terraform would do a refresh on the API because he has something in the local state. It needs to call the API of HCloud to see the difference.
And so now we're in that situation where it doesn't work because we don't have anything in the state yet.
Yeah, it's not
okay.
It's like an extra step, I would say. It's like an optimization. So, but Terraform, why should it call when nothing is in the state? So then don't need to diff. And if you have a big Terraform state with 1,000 resources or more, I think it makes sense when you don't have anything on the API side, not to do all the API calls.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So now I added the main branch here to be protected, and then it should have access to this variable. All right, let's try it one more time.
Learning by doing.
I'd be lying if I said I do stuff differently on my job. So I guess it's 50% depending on what you do. You start like with each topic, you start with like 10% knowledge and 90% is learning by doing. And the more you do something, the more you know and the less you try.
I think it's sometimes I'm thinking too complicated, and this is like me and Ansible. There is no Ansible for Dummies for Michael. You need to find a use case and you need to try it out. And when you fail 10 times, you fail another 10 times, and then it works.
I have
taking notes.
I have that really interesting topic of how do I get state information from Terraform into Ansible right now, and I haven't found a good solution for it yet. So that might be something where I'm thinking too complicated.
You have, I think, 3 ways to do that. At least
I thought one thing I already did was put everything I need in Ansible as added as outputs to Terraform, and then call Terraform from Ansible, register the result, which in Ansible then gives you the outputs of Terraform in a variable. But it's pretty complicated because like I need some obscure subproperty of something. Nothing else.
Stuff you want to provision, does it have an API?
Yes.
Probably then I would ask with Ansible the API to get the information about that. Yeah, instead of Terraform, because it's a separation of Cronstone currently.
Yeah. That's what I'm actually currently doing. Oh no. Let's check
we get a new error.
It's a bunch of errors I have never seen before. Interesting.
Wait for actions. Server is locked. Did you possibly create some server with that name? Or is there a server existing with that name?
Or are you logged into that server via SSH maybe?
No, I'm thinking more about that protection that Max is doing, but you should reload the page. It tells you to reload.
Yeah, it's just because there's no front-end release available, so there's no change.
Okay. Yeah, okay.
It's like a new software version, not a new content.
Okay. I've never seen that before either, so.
I think that's the CXT1 because it's not green and it stopped working. Yeah.
Let's probably check
Yes.
the error again.
It's nice. It's powered off. What the fuck? Okay.
Max, you broke it.
Apparently, the other one is stuck
Oh,
in creating or what?
Or we could say it's the CI pipeline. This is the pipeline broke
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, definitely. All right.
We could check the error message again because it's the agent action 168. Okay, well that doesn't tell us much, does it?
It doesn't tell
But it's definitely
us
one
which
of the
instance,
agents.
right? Yeah, I would agree based on the output here. Cool. Yeah. I don't know. We could delete it all again and just run the pipeline again. We could manually start this server because I don't think it will boot by itself now.
We delete everything and start again because we are doing immutable stuff, not like trying to patch anything here.
Yeah.
I will not switch the window right now, but I run Terraform destroy on my local shell, all right?
Yeah.
Do it.
Because Terraform is immutable, so it's like more when you try to patch Terraform, it gets more pain in the ass. Or if you're trying to work around on that. It's like then you need to import resources or doing other curious stuff. It's like
I mean, the alternative would have been to manually delete the 2 VMs, or like the 2 servers in the Hetzner cloud front end, and then remove them from the state. But as you said, we're not in a situation where we have any state that we need to keep, so just throw it away, create it again.
Yeah, and I think it's also hard to, you apply something manually, you fix it in production like a hot fix, and then you forget about persisting it, and then you don't test it again. And the next time you throw away everything, it doesn't work again because you missed doing something.
I recently did something like that, and I failed spectacularly. What I did was notice that my K3s cluster server, as we can see here, the server has problems creating. My server was a bit too slow because I put a lot of load in it. And then I was like, yeah, I'll just quickly scale it up and then change the configuration in Terraform afterwards. And you can imagine what happened. I scaled it up in the Hetzner frontend. And a week later, I ran a provider update of the Gitlab Terraform provider, which then in turn runs my GitLab CI pipeline to apply Terraform, which then downgraded my server, which in turn crashed the server because it didn't have enough resources. So if you have some config management or Terraform or whatever, change it there and apply it again.
I think it's the same even if you go into a Git repository or you manage something in your Git repository, some configs, and you change it in production and you forget to like update the Git repository. And then you deploy it again and then it's boom. Max, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on with the API today. I ran Terraform destroy and it told me it deleted everything, but the server, the agents were gone immediately. The server was stuck in deletion or something, I don't know, even though Terraform said it's removed. I now manually deleted it here again, and then it was gone, don't know. But now the pipeline is running again. We will see what fails now. So
I've
much
seen that
about
there's some maintenance coming up on April 12th or something like that. Maybe that's related. Or we are just hitting a time window which is not good.
Yeah.
I provisioned, or I clicked a server 3 hours ago and it was up in 1 minute or less. So I think waiting for the DNS update took me longer than provisioning the server.
Yeah, if you get the pre-warmed machines, Hetzner Cloud is really fast. So like if you're using Ubuntu or something like else, if you try to provision a machine with your own image, it takes quite a longer time.
Yeah, to be honest, I'm quite lazy because at least my newer services are all in containers. And I only use the host system for like installing Docker and running Docker. I've seen that the default Ubuntu image from Hetzner also disables the message of the day news, which phones home to Ubuntu. And I normally disable that. And I was searching the VM. It was like, oh, it's disabled already. So one step less to provision.
Yeah,
So
it's
that's not
the same error again.
Could you downgrade the provider?
Yeah, we can try that.
If I recall correctly, there's a CLI command called hcloud, which you can use to manually test the API, right?
Yes. Yes, it's written. It's a Go tool written around a Go
Yep.
library.
But either way, it's a super weird behavior because it's just we created 3 servers and 2 are now running and 1 is in a shut-off state.
Did you try to turn it on?
I can try. I click now.
Well, then you need to import the resource on Terraform.
Yeah, I think I would delete it anyway again and try to create it again with Terraform, but what the hell? I guess if I open the console, you won't see it because I think it opens in a new window. Yeah, it opens a new window. But now, okay, the server's running. I get a login prompt. Okay, interesting. Yeah, I don't know. I can delete it manually again.
It would also, no, that doesn't help much. No.
But I think it's, yeah, we can try to run it again, but I don't have a good feeling about this.
Probably what we can do is to fix it as a workaround. So when we see it works now, then it could be a concurrency problem. Right now, for the time, because I see this also for the first time, what we can do then is to reduce the concurrency level of Terraform API calls. So when Terraform, by default, Terraform make 10 API calls per second, and you can reduce it to do it in a sequence way, so doing parallelism to 1. So it means every user is created afterwards.
Yeah,
so
yeah, let's try this.
Will be not run in parallel.
I'm still surprised though, because if Terraform would be failing and then the server would just like be slower to come up and then running, I would say, okay, something weird going on the Terraform side, but that it ends up not running on the Hetzner side is very surprising to me. So Terraform concurrency or something. Do you have the option from the top of your
Dash
head?
parallelism equals 1. I can write it in the chat.
Okay, yeah, thanks.
But I don't know how you add this to the GitLab Terraform wrapper.
I think you can just pass any options of Terraform.
You don't need to use the TFAAA. It's my shorthand for Terraform
Okay.
automatic apply. So,
Okay.
But this will.
Well, this does not look good. Okay, so I switch windows again over to Visual Code. If I find it. Not sure if this is the right window. No, I think it isn't. This looks better. All right. Now you should see our Visual Code again. Let's go back to our GitLab CI YAML. And then in our Terraform apply, we add parallelism. Only with one dash, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
And yeah. And then we go back to our browser. Right, so how is it? It's still, I don't know, it displays as initializing still. Let's delete it.
Probably it should be a problem on the data center on the node where we are scheduled with our VM is currently having some
Yeah.
problems. We can check Hetzner status probably also. That's something.
Yeah, I've been reading the Gitlab Terraform wrapper script, and it passes the variables you are adding to it just one-on-one on Terraform.
Okay, there's nothing on the status page. So the server is deleted. Let's try the pipeline again. And I guess if this doesn't work, we will try again in the future. It's so nice when we started this Kubernetes series, I think in January, then it was always super dark when we finished. And right now I don't even have to switch on the light because it's still so bright at the window. I like that.
Yeah, at least in your area. In my area, it's snowing. So
I had this earlier today. I was talking.
After all that I know, if it's snowing, it gets more bright, not darker. So unless the sun has already set where you live, which I don't think it has.
Depends a little bit on the sky during the snowfall.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's blue sky after the clouds. But yeah, the weather changed from a sunny Easter weekend to rain, then snow and thunder yesterday, I think. So it's a bit strange, but
yeah.
Everything to change to overcome the breaks between watching pipelines run.
Yeah,
Welcome
earlier
to
I was talking to a coworker, and he lives around your area, and he was also like, "Is your weather also so crazy?" And I was like, "Yeah, I don't know. Yesterday and today we had snow, rain, sun, everything, and it changes every 10 minutes."
It's a bit more set here in Berlin, but yesterday we had a hailstorm for like 10 minutes, and then it snowed. And then it snowed, and then it was raining, and suddenly blue sky. Oh, it's snowing again. What the? It's like classic April, first 2 weeks of April weather.
Okay, I would say we stop here because this gets annoying. Not the talk about the weather, but the failing pipeline. Because right now I have no idea what to test, but to wait, because I don't think it's something we do wrong. Because yeah, it doesn't look like an error on our side to me.
Couldn't you change the data center to Helsinki maybe, just for test?
Oh yeah, we could change the data center. That's true.
That's
Okay.
actually a good idea for a test. Yeah.
Yeah, then we will definitely get another node. All right, so let's switch back to Visual Code. All right.
Just as a last resort.
Yeah, just let's move to a different
This
country
is
with all our
rather
stuff.
easy.
All right, you see,
sorry, Max.
you see
Go
our
on.
Visual Code again, right?
Yeah.
Just need some confirmation that I don't know, share my sound panel with you or something. All right, let's go back to Terraform. And yeah, maybe let's run Terraform destroy at first.
Can you specify it in the provider, the region? So that you don't need to put it on every resource?
Right now it's on every resource, so maybe we could
Oh.
set it globally, yeah.
I check the logs if it's possible.
Yeah, but maybe it's also related to the provider which we're using, because last week or 2 weeks ago we updated it.
Yeah, there is even a newer version now, I think. So we could upgrade again.
There's one. Can you show us which 126?
Yeah, right now we are using 126. Oh, no,
I
not
just
sure if
check
there's
which one
an
is the
update for that.
newest.
Yeah.
This is listed in the docs, I've learned.
I'm just checking my repository because I updated it like yesterday or something.
Okay, the
It's
docs
actually
are
126. Yeah, so we're on
So
the
it's
newest
the
one.
latest one. Okay.
Yeah, because Mars updated it last week to 126 and opened the docs and said use provider, and there is the version.
Max, we could do it in a better way, I think,
Okay.
in a more readable way. We could use a data resource or a data source for location, and then using this data source in every resource. Because then you need to change it only one time.
Okay,
And
that sounds good. I have no idea what you're talking about.
Okay,
So.
I will post the stuff that we need.
Yeah.
I can share you the example. Typically, when you're using other providers, so for example, AWS, Azure, or other, you can directly define the location directly in the provider. On Hetzner, they have a different approach that you need to specify it on the resources. Probably I can also share my screen, otherwise to explain what we currently do.
Okay.
Yeah, wait, but give me 1 second for that.
Yeah, but I can already stop sharing mine, right? Oh no, it already stopped, didn't it? No, now it stopped. Zoom is so confusing. I don't know.
I need to check. Okay. Oh, I need to close too many windows.
Maybe we are running into some sort of rate limiting.
Nah.
That I deem that very unlikely.
Okay.
Because that would be a really harsh rate limiting, and I've definitely done things that are way more request intense against the Hetzner Cloud API.
Yeah, okay. So what you can do is, they have 2 data sources. That's more interesting. So, for example, we don't want now to get all locations, or we want to ask Hetzner Cloud about all available locations. And now instead of creating resource with Terraform, we can also use Terraform to get information. And for that case, we have a new type, and it's called data. And all data sources can be used to query information about the APIs. So for example, now we would use data hcloud locations to get all the locations of all data centers from Hetzner. And then we can add this to the resource, because this is locations will give us every all location IDs. And then we could easily say, okay, give us the first element. Or currently this example, what it would do is to create a server in every location on Hetzner. So one in Nuremberg, one in the other German Falkenstein, and one in Helsinki. So, but we could use the hcloud locations and then using our own index instead of doing it dynamically. Yeah, that could be the case. You can also, instead of getting all locations, if you're only interested to get the ID, you can also use the data source hcloud location, where you can write the shorthand for the location. Then you can use this data.hcloud.location, for example, one, and then you can use this to use this in the resources. And that's, I think there's, no, it's correctly formatted, okay. Yeah. That's the way what I preferably do mostly, so that Terraform controls everything. So in terms of creating the resource, and I don't like to hard type everything, so that we can use this type, because Terraform can then easily check if it is addressed correctly. Most because then you can do type checking on the stuff.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, that's it. So then let's switch back.
Okay. Right, I already started to add this data hcloud location in here. And I think locations doesn't make too much sense for us, because then we only get a list of all of them, but we don't know which one to pick, right?
Yeah, we can use only one. So
and then I think it's HEL1 for Helsinki.
yeah.
And then down here we should be able to, for the data hcloud location, and then .name.
Or it could be also ID.
Yeah, I looked into the documentation, and it says, at least the documentation says it's a string, the location name to create the server in. I would also have kind of expected that it accepts an ID. Okay, so this way it doesn't make much of a difference if we define it as a data source or as a variable, right? But as a data source, at least it can verify that the location exists.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you would not type a wrong location there, it would say, okay, it can find the location.
So maybe we can run Terraform plan locally. That at least seems to work. And it's trying to create it in Helsinki.
So what you also can see, that not a new resource is created, but later when you push it, you can push it directly. Then we can also see a change in our plan.
Right, I'm going to switch to browser again. And here we are back. Let's run the pipeline again.
So that's the reason why you specified the workflow rule to web, so that we need to treat it via the web UI, not for every topic.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we can change it in any way we want later on. Yeah.
I just learned another thing. I was installing the hcloud CLI command just to test it out, and it has a subcommand which generates bash or ZSH autocompletion code. That's nice.
I think they looked at kube control and were like, oh, that's nice. We want to have that too, because I think the kube control is like at least the first one I can remember to have that, and it works really well.
There's a
And
Go
more and more
library
people
for
are
that.
starting to add it. Sorry, Nicholas.
There's a Go library for that you can automatically generate it from your commands. Because it's all are Go applications, and
yeah,
that's the reason.
yeah, that explains a lot. Thank you.
It's really nice because I tried to do that in C++ and there is no auto generator for that.
Can you go up, Max, to the log? So probably we can also see what changed in our plan.
Do you want to look at the servers or is the
No,
resource
higher
in the beginning?
on the resource. Doesn't it show the data stuff? But it should say.
You can search for data.
But the plan
Doesn't look like it.
But how does he know? Interesting. Because can you go up again? Probably I missed some lines that I want to see. Yeah.
Maybe that's limited from the output, just like to put it on std out from Terraform.
Okay.
Maybe internally it already knows, but it cannot print it.
Yeah, okay. It didn't get catched by the wrapper script. That's the reason, to have more clear logs. Yeah, but it's fine. Literally what you would have there would be a resource that's is in the state refreshing, and that's the data resource that trying to get the latest data of the location. But also our pipeline is failing.
2 servers failed, both agents. They're both not coming up, even though it's a different data center. Okay.
Can you check if it's it's a different data center? Okay.
Yeah, it's both in Helsinki now. Wow. I don't know what else to say.
Destroy everything, all servers, and then bring them up again. No, just kidding. You probably
the CI worked. Basically.
Yes. Yeah, it's a problem we can't fix now. And probably someone else who's on call is currently trying to fix it. So the least we can do is like wrap it up for today or wrap it up for now and wait for better times.
Yeah, let's try again another time.
And next time we implement a multi-cloud strategy.
Yeah, then this wouldn't happen, right?
Yeah.
Everything would be easier.
Yeah, that's
because we can use Terraform for it.
You're laughing,
And then
but that's actually a good idea.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, no,
I-
but not for the most business, I would say.
It would be interesting, and I think I was thinking about this a while ago, like to provision Hetzner Cloud when it works, and then say, hey, we want to do it with AWS, for instance. I think someone responded. Yeah, someone responded last week to the Twitter thread around DevOps tool stack. I don't really remember it, which is a a full-blown of a ready-to-use solution for Terraform and deployments and multi-cloud and whatever. And I said, yeah, we can definitely look into it, but first we need to have it working with Hetzner Cloud. And we also want to learn it, like building the Lego bricks together is more compelling or more easy for me to learn rather than reading the documentation of a fully fledged tool where I cannot see the progress of the learning history and the trial and error and things around this. So I think like
there's another state that I know at least, and I know that someone uses it really. It's called TubeStack. It's like the same approach that Vijay posted last week. But you can also run it locally to test the stuff, and it runs multiple on every cloud, but it uses the same approaches. It's from Philip Strubel.
interesting.
I know
Yeah,
this
but
was the first framework that I saw that doing this approach. Really.
I would again be boring and build it from scratch just to learn it.
Yeah, for learning it's not good to do that. Yeah.
So for like comparing how to probably do it at a later stage when you know the basics, I think it's great to have them. But for the initial kickstart and say, hey, this is how Terraform provisions something, and this is how it works with Hetzner. Right now, Hetzner is locked for some reason, so it's using the API and we cannot debug it as a black box. Maybe it's like how Terraform fires the requests. Could also be a thing, but I'm totally not in the mood to use TCP dump now, or just attempt to do that. So yeah, let's maybe wait for better times. Probably in 1 hour it works again. Next.
All right, we meet again in an hour.
we do a scheduled pipeline.
You just stole my joke, Max.
So sorry. I call you in an hour.
Now
Yeah,
we can create a scheduled pipeline so it will do the job for us. So every hour, try to plan, apply again.
Yeah, but then we do the destroy each time, so GitLab gets an invoice for servers created each hour until it works.
No, they wouldn't, because the state is saved. It wouldn't recreate everything.
No, we would we have to make sure to delete it every time afterwards, like just so we create new ones every time.
No,
that's very important to raise the invoice.
Okay, to raise the invoice. You want to raise the invoice.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Okay. So creating a server costs you some cents, right?
I don't know,
Yeah,
3 cents or something.
You always get
1
billed the
cent.
first hour on creation, so that you don't just spawn servers. Like once you create one, you get billed at least 1 hour, so that you don't just spawn them and use them for 30 minutes and then turn them down. I mean, you could make a business out of that, and that's why it doesn't work.
It's probably also preventing crypto miners and other abusive things.
Yeah. It's mostly it's relying on the business model, because I know that you on AWS you need only pay for the first 10 minutes is the fastest stuff that you get. So you have 10 minutes. If you have workload that fits into under 10 minutes, you can spin up your whole machine for that and then use it and paying only for 10 minutes and not for a whole hour. But it's mostly like on the business calculation, how you do the server calculations and so on. What's in the back, it's relying on the business model. Mostly.
Yeah, for our case, I would say probably don't over-engineer it with scheduled jobs. If you have the mood next week, or we have the mood next week to say, hey, we want to verify it, maybe after the ops trace session, we can just click on it and try it again, or whoever is in the mood. Yeah, that being said, next week is the 14th of April, and Sebastian will join us from Opstrace. As far as we have discussed it, it will be like a short showcase. What is Obstrace? What are the plans, roadmaps, and other things? And then we do like a hands-on session. And I also told him that we probably will be having some crazy ideas, and maybe we find certain ones, and then do it live. Maybe just throwing in, monitoring the Kubernetes cluster we just built with Obstrace. I don't know if this works. But yeah, let's see about it. So I'm excited for next week. Other than that, thanks, Max, for preparing today and for debugging with us today. I really appreciate it. And with that, I would say bye on YouTube.